Before I hand the microphone over to the Mayor of Newport News, Mayor Price, I want to thank you all for joining us here at the HousingX conference. I'm Erica Sims. I'm the co-executive director of Housing Forward Virginia, and Housing Forward Virginia is your statewide affordable housing policy resource. And by that I mean from trainings to data analysis to policy papers to events like this, we seek to prepare you to do your work. We host this conference so that those of us in this industry can come together and learn the art of practice of innovation, because it is a practice. It's something we have to practice together, and it's something that we have to work on. Just as Zach said, it's work that you do over a long period of time. And I hope you learned something new these 2 days and a way to innovate and create more affordable housing. I want to do a few housekeeping items. Please remember that COVID is unfortunately still with us, and we encourage you to use masks when practical. And if you are attending the conference for AIA credits, please be sure to use the sign-in sheets that are here at the podium and will also be in the other workshops to do your check-in. After this afternoon's plenary session, please join us in the rotunda for our reception immediately following with drinks and hors d'oeuvres. And I want to thank Virginia Housing and Virginia Tech for co-hosting and sponsoring this event. Without them, we wouldn't be hosting this. They seeded the idea back in 2019 for our first HousingX. And as an industry, we are so fortunate to have these two titans contributing to our work. I don't think every state can claim that they have such unique organizational strengths in their housing finance agency and in their universities that have such deep benches when it comes to thinking about innovation and risk-taking in affordable housing. And I believe that it's creative institutions like that that are going to make Virginia a leader in housing innovation in the future. And lastly, I want to take a moment to thank the individuals primarily responsible for this wonderful event. They are 5 people. Martina James, and if they can stand up, Martina James Valley, Joe Coleman, Jillian Saul of Bellatrix Consulting, our amazing event planning firm, and Flora Valdez de Pena and Eric Mai on the staff of Housing Forward Virginia. If you could stand up and please be honored. They're probably not here, they're probably running around doing something, putting out some fire. But it's hard to believe that these 5 people are behind most of what you will experience today and tomorrow, and it's hard to believe because you have not met these 5 individuals. Innovation isn't just about creating new ideas, it's about working hard and thoughtfully on a team to accomplish something new, and these 5 embody that, and I'm so grateful for them. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mayor Price to welcome us and open up this conference.
Well, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the City of Newport News and officially kick off the HousingX conference. First of all, isn't it exciting to be in person? I know it is for me. It's been people through the box for so long now. It is a pleasure to be able to shake hands and talk to people. You have joined together this week to discuss innovation in the housing sector, and I'm proud to say Newport News is making significant strides in that area. Transformation and investment are taking place from one end of our city to the other, particularly in the Southeast community. In 2019, we received a $30 million grant from HUD as part of their Choice Neighborhoods initiative. And this once thriving part of the city is now being revitalized. Our work includes multifamily apartment buildings with retail spaces, townhouses, single-family home sites, a health and wellness trail, parks, and an early childhood development center for children from 6 weeks of age to 4 years. We're taking a holistic approach, a coming together of partners, resources, and residents all committed to transforming the narrative of this community. The excitement and energy is really powerful now. The C&I projects will capture this sense of community and vibrancy while creating the change needed to sustain the community spirit for future generations. Newport News is on the forefront of innovation in a variety of sectors, from science and technology to housing and construction. Just last year, IndyDwell, an industry leader in the steel modular housing manufacturing sector, announced an investment of $2 million to establish its first East Coast manufacturing facility in Newport News. And the new facility and related administrative offices will be housed in the Southeast community and will create approximately 220 new jobs. Our Southeast community is experiencing a renaissance thanks to the partners like IndyDwell and other companies. The transformation that is taking place in this area is strategic, from streetscapes and an innovation and opportunity center to affordable and market rate housing and co-working spaces. Our efforts are centered around empowering and uplifting residents. Many members of our city team, as well as the representatives from the Newport News Housing and Redevelopment Authority, are here, so please be sure to ask them about the incredible movement taking place in our city. And now, while you're here to learn and network and develop new ideas, I hope you would take some time to explore Newport News. Stroll around the fountain that's right outside here and grab a meal at one of our restaurants. Our tourism division has set up a hospitality table in the lobby, and each received a coupon book to numerous of our restaurants. Please take time to enjoy our city's amenities and our welcoming environment. And thank you for participating in this conference and for the important work you do on behalf of affordable housing. Housing is an essential part of our nation's infrastructure, and we must leverage the innovation, creativity, and dedication of everyone in this room to ensure that residents of all ages and all backgrounds have access to the homes and resources they need to thrive. So thank you once again for your contribution to this industry. I hope you will enjoy the city, and I hope you will enjoy our wonderful city. Thank you.
And now Susan Dewey, Director of Virginia Housing. Well, good afternoon. It is so exciting to be here with all of you. I was in Newport News not long ago when there was a ribbon cutting for Huntington Village, part of the transformation the mayor was just talking about, and kudos to Newport News Redevelopment Housing Authority. Where's Karen Wall? I know you're here somewhere. There she is. Wonderful job once again to you and your staff. And it is exciting to be here. Yeah, let's give her a round of applause. So on behalf of all of us at Virginia Housing, we are just thrilled to be here at this innovation conference, the 2022 HousingX conference. We're very excited to support the opportunity to learn about the innovative work the housing community is doing to address Virginia's housing needs, to showcase cutting-edge projects and ideas, and to connect with colleagues and peers. And to that end, I'm so glad to be able to actually see you and be with you once again, because I think that networking, particularly in this space of innovation, is so important. Virginia Housing took part in the first HousingX conference, and it was a terrific experience. How many went to that first conference? You know how wonderful it is, and that's why you're back again, and I think you'll find that this is what a wonderful way to really look at innovation. I want to say, before I get into more of this, I want to thank HousingX and also Housing Forward Virginia, which has done such a great job, Erica and your staff, the Virginia Center for Housing Research, for all they're doing, not just today, but to promote innovation. And I appreciate the opportunity to be on the stage with the mayor, and also look forward to hearing from today's speaker, Chris Moody.
Virginia Housing, as you might have seen the banners, we're celebrating our 50th anniversary. There are a lot of 50ths going around, it seems like, this year. We celebrate July 1st of 2022, 50 years of being created by the General Assembly. And we pursue our mission by supporting planning efforts in the communities, incentivizing new affordable homeownership opportunities with an emphasis on closing the racial equity gap, and assisting with the development, revitalization of affordable rental housing, including public housing transformation, along with all the efforts such as providing rent relief, now home ownership assistance, and other essential programs and services. Yesterday, in an orientation session with some of our new Virginia Housing employees, I was asked what area of our work was most exciting to me. And I answered without hesitation, innovation. Some of the most exciting work we do is around housing innovation, which includes exploring new home building technologies like 3D printers, but also looks beyond just construction and into new ways of thinking about financing, land use, and nearly all facets of housing. In fact, we showcased at the last HousingX conference a beautiful demonstration home designed and built by our partner, Indy Dwell, that we found all the way in Idaho. And many of you probably saw the rolled steel modular housing that we had on display at that conference. Since then, we've continued to expand our efforts to explore some of these housing solutions, including incentives to get Indy Dwell to come to Virginia and put their first East Coast facility right here. A great example of how our investment in innovation is paying dividends. This year, we're exhibiting a very cool homestead accessory dwelling unit from our partner, the Homestead Tiny House Company, and that's as part of the Experience Lab. ADUs, as many of you know, offer housing opportunities in established neighborhoods while also providing a source of rental income for the property owner. We're showcasing the Homestead ADU as another hands-on example of how we need to think creatively when it comes to expanding the supply of affordable housing. So we encourage you to take a look. And we also need to be encouraging our communities to take a closer look at allowing ADUs around the state. Our efforts to explore innovative housing options like these are driven by one of the greatest housing challenges we face today, and across much of the nation, not just in Virginia. It's the perfect storm of low inventory, high demand, and a rising interest rate environment. The scale of this challenge was highlighted in a study that was just completed, an affordable housing study we refer to as House Bill 854, and we did this in partnership with the Department of Housing and Community Development, along with our partner in this effort, Housing for Virginia. It's a mere 450 pages, so when you get a chance, please make sure to look it over. It does have a lot of good data and good recommendations, and we all need to be working together to look at how we prioritize this work. Because as you know, housing is a continuum of opportunity, and without access to affordable home ownership, working families, as well as the communities they call home, struggle to build wealth and achieve shared prosperity. As we work to put affordable home ownership in the reach of more Virginians, the shrinking supply of affordable starter homes represents a huge challenge to our efforts to address systemic disparities in home ownership. And of course, the lack of home ownership also causes distress on the rental side. We believe that investing in innovative housing solutions like advanced factory-built housing can help address this challenge and other needs. To that end, we're working with partners like Virginia Tech, Indy Dwell, and others to explore new technologies and approaches that promise to make construction faster, less expensive, and more environmentally sustainable. From that initial work with Indy Dwell, to showcase rolled steel modular housing, to our partnership with Zach and Elquist, and some of you I think just were listening to him, to build a 3D printed home pilot in Southwest Virginia. We continue to lay the groundwork and look at where our future can go throughout the state. When we talk about innovation, though, again, as I mentioned, it's not just new technologies, but it's looking innovatively at all facets of housing. The reality is we cannot walk into a community and just start bringing in manufactured homes. It really has to be part of a holistic partnership approach working together. There are numerous challenges unrelated to the quality of the homes, which include, of course, most of you will realize, zoning restrictions and the public perception, but that doesn't have to be the end of the story. For example, in 2019, we worked with the City of Danville, the Virginia Manufactured and Modular Housing Association, a nonprofit developer called Next Step, together on a pilot project to build 5 new infill manufactured homes. We worked with them on a grant so that they could study the pilot's feasibility, to educate the community, and successfully move the project forward by helping Danville create a special district on city-owned land for these homes. So this is just an example where local land use policies could be a barrier, but with the right partners, we could affect change and create new home ownership opportunities for working families. Combined with our home buyer programs, this pilot offers a glimpse to many of our communities about what is possible. And the possibilities are not just on the single-family home side. Gateway Seniors in Fisherville, which opened this year, is very first next-generation modular apartment community and a compelling example of the potential applications of this type of housing for rental homes. Gateway Senior offers 80 new, modern and affordable apartments for low-income seniors in the Shenandoah Valley. The developer, Pinnacle Construction, used cutting-edge modular construction techniques to build the property off-site and do it in less time at a lower cost. This was part of Virginia Housing's effort in an innovation round of low-income housing tax credits, where we awarded $20.4 million in tax credit equity and financing for the construction. So we have tools, we have resources, we have capabilities to not just be creative, but holistic in our approach to innovation. And we've got to keep showing that critical link between housing and other public policy issues, such as education, health, and jobs. We work closely with new partners in all of these areas, such as the Virginia Chamber of Commerce and VEDP, Virginia Economic Development Partnership, as they see that new businesses are asking about workforce housing and considering the availability of housing with considering whether or not to relocate or expand in Virginia. The key ingredient needed is a willingness to explore bold ideas at a scale and have the potential to address urgent needs as inventory and construction costs challenges exist. No matter where you work or what you do, I encourage you to think innovatively about the future and what you can do to ensure we're thinking more innovatively. The great news is that we're in a position to not only help make Virginia a greater, more affordable and equitable place to call home, but to position the Commonwealth of Virginia as a national leader in housing innovation at the same time. This is an exciting moment for the housing community. COVID Light has shined the light on affordable housing in ways that we couldn't even imagine. And so it's the perfect time for HousingX. We look forward to the rest of the program and all those presenting and speaking over the 2 days, and encourage you also to take this opportunity to network and learn more from each other. So thank you very much for being here and being part of this effort. Thanks again to Housing Forward Virginia, and I'll turn it back over to Erica.
Sorry everybody, we did me instead. and I'm sure it's triple deja vu now for all of you that were here for the pre-conference now, so I will be brief. And I have the real privilege to introduce our plenary speaker for this afternoon, but I'm going to probably make you mad at me first again because I think it's time for a pop quiz. So, first question, what does it take to win the American Institute of Architects highest award? What does it take to be the first African-American architecture firm to win this award in its entire 165-year history? What does it take to win this accolade in 2021 in the midst of the pandemic? Well, it takes, at the very least, tremendous talent and innovation. It takes daily commitment to revising, improving, and believing that diligence will turn into breakthroughs. And so who can do something like that? Well, today we're lucky to hear straight from the source. Curtis Moody is the founder and chairman of Moody Nolan, an architecture firm based in Ohio with more than 11 offices across the nation. The firm's work is centered on the belief that diverse perspectives foster creativity and responsive solutions. So not surprisingly, they were picked this year as one of the 10 most innovative architecture firms in the nation, particularly for their Legacy Homes housing project, which you will hear more about soon from Curtis. And they continue to open up the field of architecture to a greater range of people, just like we need to introduce housing to more people, so too does architecture, and he is certainly doing that. And also to prioritize the healing aspects of architecture in their work, which I think is very exciting. So without any further ado, Curtis, come on up. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for that introduction. I want to comment about a number of things that has to do with the definition of affordable housing. Because one of the things that our firm has been challenging our developer partners and everyone we work with is affordability to who? There's an income level that actually determines affordability. But if you're below that level, what do you do? Because the market is looking to build within the range of what is determined as affordability. And there are conditions in which, in different markets around the country, that definition needs to be changed. I think we'll keep it going in a minute. No problem. So anyway, I'll keep talking while this is being worked on. Moody Nolan has gone through a number of iterations from when I founded the firm in '82 to today, and a number of things that we do that we believe is something that a lot of the market is heading towards. As far as you're going to hear a little bit about EDI today, not just the Legacy House and other kind of affordable housing ideas. We're going to discuss a little bit about what diversity, inclusion, equity really means. One of the things that happens with kind of those definitions, and I'm fortunate. No, go ahead.
I'm going to switch your PowerPoint presentation to my computer over there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these sponsor signs down to the floor so you can see the screen, so it's in your line of sight.
No problem.
Okay. And I'll advance your slides on your command. So I don't take up your time.
No problem. Innovation.
Make it work for you.
There's a couple of slides that will prompt some of the things I'm going to talk about, but I've got some of them in my head, my memory, so I'm going to talk to them, and as they come up, I may pass them because I'll be at a different point in the presentation. Again, I stated at the founding permit too, and one of the things we were fortunate enough to do is basically go through markets, recessions, what have you. And there's a reason we were very fortunate to move through a recession in 2008, a little bit different than a lot of our counterparts, where at the time those firms, the number of architectural firms were decreasing their staff by 40%, things of that nature. We didn't have to do that. How did we come about the Legacy House? And you see part of the picture of the Legacy House on the screen. And the Legacy House is basically a 750 square foot, 3-bedroom house. We determined that one of the things that was missing in the market was, especially in the Columbus market, was that size house, it was non-existent. Especially a 3-bedroom. You might have a 2-bedroom house in that size, but not a 3-bedroom. But the tiny house movement that most of us watched on TV started saying 350 square foot, 400 square foot. And people were trying to make a go at having a family within that. My issue with that had been, bedrooms you couldn't stand up because they were lofts, and you could sit, but you couldn't stand up. No privacy for you, the adults, and the children. And so we sought to say, why don't we just increase the size and make sure we hit all those marks, that we have headroom, that we have full-size furniture, things of that nature, and privacy for the kids as well as the adults. So that was where we started. Next, please. So we're very fortunate that as a firm we were named the 2021 Architectural Firm for the Nation. We have right now going on, we're 330, maybe moving toward 350 staff members in 12 different offices. We are, by percentage, the most diverse firm in the country. We have staff members from every continent in the world. I think we speak maybe 15 different languages within our firm. Not all at once, but we have a lot of that. And it's by design. It's not that it happened that way. Early determined that I believe there was something that diversity could contribute when it is a goal. That ideas would be better if there was lots of different opinions that went into solving a problem. So when you solved it, one group didn't say, well, we don't live that way. And when we solved it for a larger number of people than what could be a small number of people without the diversity that we felt was required. Next, please. So, years ago, started basically in 2017, we were checking the revenues of the company and seeing where our charitable gifts were going. Like most of you here, so sometimes you get invited to golf outings and dinners, your different things during the course of the year. You sponsor XYZ, your income allows you to do that. And then at the end of the year, we sit down and say, well, here's what we spent. And then I asked the question to all my staff, especially to those leaders, I said, and who did we help? And they said, well, we bought a dinner table. And I said, and who was at the table? We didn't remember. What did they do with those funds? We had no idea. So I said, I know United Way, American Heart Association, Cancer Society, all of those are great, great programs and we should continue. But can't we do something where we see something tangible, where we help the community with something tangible? We're architects, we're builders. We should be able to come up with something that's more permanent. When we, at the end of the year, we spend money, we say, this helps somebody. So we came up with the legacy house idea. In the legacy house, we took a portion of our giving, and we said, we're going to slow down, not going to buy a full table, we're going to buy 2 tickets. We're going to do things like that so that we could take those dollars and invest in a family somewhere that we didn't know. We specifically set a criteria that we did not want to know or participate in selecting a family that would receive the legacy house. We hired a social service agency and said, here's the criteria. We're going to go in one of the worst neighborhoods in the city. We're going to build a house. They have to be willing to live there. The house, from an affordability standpoint, is going to be affordable because we're going to give it to them. So we said, we need you to seek who is most needed family, the family that mostly would need this, because one of the things, and I happen to chair an equity DEI committee, and one of the toughest things to do is not diversity, not inclusion, is equity. Because equity comes from owning something, in which it grows and adds to equity. So I said, how can we contribute equity to somebody that they can work all their life in a minimum wage job and never accumulate funds for equity? They just can't get there. They need a boost. We can do that. So, next slide, please. So, we found some property that was owned by the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority, and we negotiated with them what we're going to do. Said, hey, we want to give this away. We want to find a piece of land that we were willing to purchase, but it ended up being donated. It was in a tax abatement area, so the city gave a 15-year tax abatement. And on that, some of what I heard earlier about agencies, we did have problems with the city of Columbus had never built a small home like this on a piece of land if it wasn't a trailer court. So the zoning codes wouldn't allow it. So we had to go through and get some modifications of that. Next, please. So we started looking at what should go in this tiny home, but permanent tiny home, we called it. And we found that definitely being able to have, which some realtors will say, a first floor bedroom would be very nice if we could accommodate it. So we started designing a living space and a kitchen and open planning and some volume, not just 8-foot ceilings if we could find a way. Next, please. So in laying out the legacy house, you notice it has a large porch. And the reason was, the porch is off to the front and the side because this area was an area in which had a level of crime. And being able to see, if you were to porch the backyard as far as the front yard, would be a positive. So we designed the porch that way. But in the more traditional neighborhoods, and something that's happening more and more now, is porches are something of a great thing because you can greet your neighbors walking on the sidewalk, different things of that nature. So we designed to accommodate that. We also made 2 full baths, not half, 1 and a half, 2 full baths. One on the first floor, one on the second floor. The second floor, the 2 bedrooms that are there for the children also have a laundry off of those bedrooms. And again, it has a number of built-in storage areas as well. Next, please. So we started sketching. We determined that we would do something more contemporary versus traditional because we said we want to design it so a young professional would want to live in this house. And what would they want? And anybody in our office that wanted to buy a home would want this house. So we went about developing that. Next, please. So as you see in the section, the living room is open to the upper level. Now, part of the rationale there was a lot of tiny homes had lofts that looked back on the living space. But again, as I mentioned, you couldn't stand up in those lofts. This you could. You could be upstairs looking down. And we designed the upstairs as you were looking down to have a counter area that you could study, and you can also still participate in the living room if you chose. So you see the 2 bedrooms that are stacked. You see the kitchen is tucked under the stair in this case, and it kind of wraps in an L-shaped space. Next, please. And this is me and a number of my staff members actually doing the painting. Now, we determined that we would cover the cost of the entire house, but if we could get help from other partners, we would sure love it. So we went out and sought others, but there were some things that we sent messages out to staff for participation, and they agreed that they would want to participate in our evening time. After work, we would go out and we would paint in the evenings throughout the night. Now, we didn't do the high area for security reasons. We didn't want somebody from the ladder and fall. You know, I got it there a couple of times. And so we took that approach. One of the things that happened, though, that we didn't count for, is the staff got so excited about what we were doing. They had a project on their own that came up after the fact. We're building the house. We don't know who's going to live in there yet. And then finally we get told 2 weeks before move-in by the Housing Authority, the Southeast Area Mission said, we've selected a young lady that has 3 kids, single parent. She's actually in the hospital, just had her 3rd infant. And she's leaving that to move into a shelter. She was in a battered situation. She was leaving it. She had no place to stay, but she had good employment potential. She'd be able to take care of it. That was one of the things. They have to be able to take care of it if they're gifted this. So they identified this parent with their children, and they told us not the name, but the ages. And staff found out their project was furnishing the house. So they all raised funds to furnish the house. Then they found, since they knew the age of the kids, they decorated their bedrooms per the age of those kids. Since there was an infant, they bought a bassinet, they bought diapers, they bought medicine, put it in the medicine cabinet, they bought food, put it in the refrigerator and on the shelving. They bought all those kinds of things that anybody that would be living, because this person had nothing. And they put it in there for that person to have. So, and when we're told finally, here's the name of the person, we met the person. Next, please. This is the dedication where my son and I are actually doing the ribbon cutting for the lady that's being, that's receiving the house. Next, please. And this is just another picture of the outside of the house, looking from the street. Next, please. Another view of it as you see the front yard, backyard. Next, please. And again, the furnishing and the interior environment. Again, it doesn't look like a house that is done for someone who is on hard times. It looks like a very high-level, high-end apartment, condo somewhere that any of us, we were hoping would want to live in, and that was the point. So it's like, well, what else did the Legacy House do? Well, we're doing our 2nd Legacy House in Nashville, Tennessee right now. I committed that we would do a Legacy House in every office that we have around the country. So there will be 12, unless we have a few more offices in the future. But part of it was the goal is to seek the challenge that everyone can do their own legacy of some sort, whether it's a house or what have you. We call it a legacy, but it can be anyone's legacy. We asked the local chapter of Columbus and American Institute of Architects to consider a team of architects coming together and sponsoring their own legacy. They can design and raise funds within the firms and build the Columbus American Institute of Architects chapter of legacy houses. So we're pushing this around the country, asking all that we come in contact with that in addition to all the great things that are happening when it comes to housing and the number of prototypes that are being done, prefab, whether it's modular, whether it's computer, whatever, that in addition to that, there's also the opportunity to do something in which those that are below that threshold could benefit from. And the equity portion starts to kick in. Now, I would tell you that when we gifted the house to this person, they never understood it. Kept calling the office and said, when do I make a payment? Then there's no payment. Well, how long do I live here? For as long as you like. The person couldn't believe it. They didn't understand that. And we did it, we signed over the mortgage, or not mortgage, we signed over the deed to her, and all the things. And it took it took over a year before she realized that, yes, this is mine. And it's become a wonderful thing for that family. Now, one thing I want to point out though, we're very fortunate, we're doing housing, our housing studio is just going like crazy as far as affordable housing. We're doing affordable housing in Philadelphia, we're doing it in Atlanta, we're doing it in Nashville, we're doing it in Columbus, we're doing it in Chicago, we're doing it in many, many different cities. And some of it range from modular housing, the stick built, to any number of approaches where we're using a certain kind of innovation, whether we're prefabbing just a core area of the kitchen, bathrooms, and then having them come in and just place in the house, things of that nature. But one thing that, even though this is a very contemporary design, what we found is not all neighborhoods want the modern design. So we had to adapt. We had to adapt that. Next, please. Oh, this is one of the bedrooms in that house. And that's the kids' bedrooms. Next, please. And then some of the donors that helped us along the way. And this is the second one under construction. It's well past that now. That was a groundbreaking, but it's framed up now in Nashville, as you can see. It's moving along quite well. Next, please. So how does that affect other affordable kinds of things? Many of you may remember that Sears used to sell package home. Sears used to, you used to go online, not online, you had a catalog. you go to the catalog and you say, oh, I like this. And they were really nice homes. In today's world, what would be an issue with them is they had very small closets, because people then didn't have the kind of clothing as much as they do today. And so some of those things could be adapted. But what we did, we took it upon ourselves to study the Sears homes and to say, how can we develop something that could be retrofit back into a neighborhood? Because in a lot of neighborhoods, there's scattered lots, infill housing, as most of you know. And in some cases, the infill, if you talk to the community, they look like the infill to represent the community that exists, not just something that's foreign. Sometimes something that's foreign is good because it becomes a catalyst. But in Linden, we started studying. Next, please. So we did a lot of research. Next, please. And we started looking at traditional homes, what was available, the styles of those homes, and what could be done in a next generation home that resembled the character of the neighborhoods of the past. Next, please. So we looked at starting to develop into a concept. So these are some of my sketches, just so you know I do still design. So I started looking at sketching something that was under 1,000 square feet, 3-bedroom, full basement if desired, but that size. Because as most of us know, most homes today are in the 1,500 square foot range, that kind of thing, because that's kind of a nice place and people feel very comfortable with that size. But there are bonuses to having a smaller house. The maintenance, the upkeep, the family, how they take care of that house versus the bigger house that they may struggle with. And some of these are first-time buyers, so going into too big a house is a problem versus something that's good. So designing these, we determined that we would design that character. So these are some of the early sketches. Next, please. These are some more. Everything imaginable, whether it's split level, we did split level, we did 1 floor plan, single floor plans, we did 2-story, a story and a half. We started a whole number of things. Next, please. And in the neighborhood called Linden, we started displaying what the neighborhood could be if these new homes were infilled, especially in the scattered lots, the vacant lots, and some places where the house had deteriorated and that the fixing up the house was not as beneficial as to the new. Next, please. So we identified the area in the Linden community. Next, please. And we started looking at was Mater Artery, so the yellow building is basically a mixed-use building, but then we subdivided the smaller lots on the gridded street and started laying out new structures. Next, please. So we did quick sketches of this nature. Next, please. And we started photographing again historical neighborhoods and saying, how can we create this kind of street view in a newer kind of house that's smaller, but also still has great character. Next, please. So these are the new homes we developed for those neighborhoods. And again, they're all 1,000 square foot or less. They're all 3 bedrooms, some 4. They all have potential basements, but you notice they all have porches and things of that nature to also represent the character of walkable neighborhoods that are part of a lot of development dreams right now, is to do the walkable neighborhoods if possible. Next, please. So here's some of the other character sketches of those same houses. Next. Other ones. Next. And then we still, contemporary, modern, was still something to desire. So as we looked at Linden, and as we started looking across the country and talking to other architecture firms, we have received several calls from firms and other architectural firms that are starting their legacy house. One is getting ready to start in Memphis, Tennessee, one somewhere in a remote part of Ohio. Part of this, again, is the dream of how can we encourage people to come forward and partner together to create a legacy in addition to all the other affordable and new programs that are being promoted right now, either through the transportation bill that has affordable housing money in it, other cities that are receiving some kind of other funds. HUD has just recently announced, their programs for that, and we're trying to integrate the affordable housing market with the market rate cost that still is a big hole in how many the needs for that, but we're trying to communicate as we can to backfill underneath that, the lower level as well. So I would tell you that we determined in Nashville not to gift it. We work with the housing authority, and the housing authority owns the land. They said, we're going to donate the land, housing authority, Metropolitan Housing Authority of Nashville. But what we're going to do is we're going to cycle 5 years. Our equity program is going to be, we're going to identify families that are moving for 5 years free. But then we're going to say they're going to build equity because they're going to pay us a minimum amount over the 5 years that becomes a savings account. At the end of the 5 years, whatever they've accumulated is theirs to go put a down payment on a house somewhere else. And so they move from that, and then we'll rotate to the next group, and the housing authority will continue to own the property that's gifted by us. Will continue to own the property, and they will then rotate, and create equity by creating one of the people said, forced savings account. That's what it is. You're going to save money whether you like it or not, because you're going to pay, let's say $400 a month. You're going to pay $400 a month because of your income level. And you have to do that in order to stay in the house. But this is all yours when you leave in 5 years. So again, it's something that we hope catches on in many other places in the country. What I do want to kind of also just echo a few cases though is the speaker earlier was talking about prefab versus the different type of innovative housing programs. And what we are seeing, again, is in addition to more prefab companies starting to form and manufacture in multiple locations, which is a good thing, is there's a way, though, that still hasn't been mastered to do the number without strictly a replication of what's been done before, meaning that everything looks the same. As you saw with these, we particularly did these in a way that they all look different, purposely. But there's components that in each of those are exactly the same. I mean, like most developments, the doors are the same, the windows are the same, they're doubled in some cases, tripled in some cases, what have you. But they're the same purchase price every time. These are the kind of things that we're finding can be done by another nonprofit group. And you say, who is that? Trade schools. We're finding that we can go to trade schools and we can then, because they're training how to do masonry, do carpentry, do all the things that later can allow them to get into a career. So in doing that though, in most cases, they're not building something except in the classroom or something gets torn down. So what if they're building something that's permanent? Maybe they're doing a part of it. So we currently have a program with a church where they're building 2 legacy houses for the church through the local trade school. The trade schools, in this case, we're furnishing material, but the labor and all that is the students. And part of the supervision is coming from experts, masons that are helping students become masons. You know, they're going to do the foundations, they're going to do all the things that they're allowed to do, and then we'll fill in with other professionals of the things they can't do. But they're even doing the wiring, they're doing the electrical in these as well. Some of the prefab units for mechanical, and they're working with vendors within the school programs to do this. So you talk about labor shortage and things of that nature, well, there's available labor in those students. And they're very eager to be part of something that becomes real. So when we talk about innovation, it's utilizing things that maybe have not been utilized to the full extent they could have been. And that's something that we're just pushing in today's world. There's some other things we're doing, and I showed you 750 square foot house, but I will tell you, we also have affordable houses at 250,000 square feet. I mean, 250,000. 250. We are doing efficiency affordable prototypes that are 250 square feet. Now, this is much like a hotel, where the living room furniture does become a bed. You have full bath, you have full kitchen, you have all those things. But this is another level of affordability that is going to the market in Philadelphia. And it's something in which, again, is the next step down. And then we have the 400, we have another, where we have the 400 square feet modular house. And then we have everything in between. So again, the goal, and these are all in the early stages, so not all of them are built yet, but they have potential. I will say that it's a question that most of you have to answer all the time, which is something that we do as well. Everybody can say, why can't you design something that costs $50 a square foot instead of $150? And my answer to them is, well, if lumber costs what lumber costs, you tell me how you can change the price of lumber. I mean, it is what the market says lumber costs. So even though you lose less of it, it still costs. A foundation still costs, masonry still costs, windows still cost, doors still cost. There's not a lot of ways to reduce the cost of those things other than what they cost to make them. And as you know today with energy and all those kind of things, it costs a little bit more to make those things. So we pay for it. So affordability is not only in the construction. Affordability has to be a number of vehicles. It can't be just the construction of the house. It has to be the construction of the house and then all of the components that can be leveraged with other kind of help. Programs that help decrease the cost of the land. Some of the city grant money and all that normally goes to something, but what if it went to write down the cost of the land every time for a developer? What if it went to write down the cost of construction? Those are things that are happening already, but it needs to happen more uniformly around the country, and we're pushing for that. So I do want to say that as we're working in the different states, and we're very fortunate, we're working coast to coast in 46 countries right now. In doing that, we're finding that there's some trade-offs that can be incorporated to make it more uniform than what we're designing. That when we look at California, though, we have our weather conditions there versus weather conditions in the south, whether it's North Dakota, South Dakota, those kind of things, that all is taken into account. But there is some uniformity that we're able to use in our conceptual design work that we're finding that can be utilized in all of those climates. So we're trying to, right now, we're working on the module I mentioned before. We're working on a module that is a pre-built kitchen, bathroom, bath and a half, and then full kitchen, and laundry. So that all the utility and plumbing is within that, and it's a plug-in model. It's all designed, built, and just is delivered to the site to be constructed with the rest of the house. So the guts of it is done somewhere, manufactured, and then delivered. And that is something that I believe you're going to see a lot more of. I didn't want to take the entire time today to talk about what Moody Nolan is doing. I've heard a number of your programs as I listened to some of the things that happened in Virginia, and know that you have a great thing going on with HousingX, and it's something that is not duplicated around the country. Would like to see more of this in other states, because this kind of collection of talent and people that you have here is what it takes to take the next step in housing. And I'm open for any questions you might have.
Got a question over here. So, can you talk about, you're doing mostly development, from what I understand, in the urban fabric, and I'm wondering if you're seeing any friction from your land use. I noticed on the house that you did that you used 2 lots instead of 1. Can you talk about what went into that decision and why you used 2 rather than 1?
Yes, at the time, it was kind of interesting because we knew those 2 lots had formerly been 2 homes that had been demolished. But the city's, at the time, the city of Columbus's code had changed. And the problem was that the setback requirements had changed so that you couldn't build on the single lot the size home that it would take. With 20% required for setbacks on side yards, you know, it couldn't happen. Now, we've been fortunate, and with some other architects, to get that changed, that now we can build on a single 33-foot wide lot, or 30-foot wide lot. And, you know, the 20% is 3 foot off each side, and we're able to do a house within that range. And we designed houses from 12 foot wide on up. We got 12, 14, 16, 20, 22, 24, and those will fit on a 30-foot lot.
Hi, I have a million questions, so I'll only ask a couple. For the first house that you guys built, you mentioned that it was in a distressed neighborhood, and I wonder if you could talk about the houses that you have built since, and you know, maybe envision what kind of neighborhoods those would show up in. And I wonder if you could also talk about the influence of design on people's perceptions of these small houses and their purpose.
A number of things. First of all, even though, you know, we believe we were doing a good thing, it didn't go over with everybody the same. I mean, some people did not want it. They did not want us to gift somebody a house. Matter of fact, we had arguments. Don't you dare gift somebody a house. You know, why, you know, and it was like, why should you be concerned about it? There were people that just didn't like the idea of a gift for that large of a fund, you know, and then you had neighborhood people, you had some that felt it was too modern in that community. And that's why, again, we started doing Linden Reimagined and looking at other styles. Because we wanted that. But we purposely wanted a modern house. We sought that out from the very beginning. Because we said one of the things that's lacking in some of the historic neighborhoods is you don't have those, because they didn't start with that, so therefore no one experiences those kind of homes until they move out of the neighborhood. But there were plenty of young people that wanted a more modern house. We our surveys and things of that nature. So we wanted to do that. The infill, again, picking a neighborhood that was in transition, I'll say, was purposeful, because we were saying we want to start plugging the holes in bad neighborhoods. And the only thing that affects the bad neighborhoods, when you leave the vacant lots, it creates more crime than if you don't. So our goal was, when we look at doing things for our community, how can we help incrementally on all those things, not just housing, but pride. You should have seen the kids riding their bikes in this neighborhood that kept saying, we sure wish we lived there. I mean, when we would be out painting and different, we had kids that their house was not of a style, or and they hadn't seen, it's not like the rest of us drive around and see different things, have magazines. These kids had not seen those kind of houses. They lived in a neighborhood and they only see what they see in their neighborhood or some other they visit. So the kids were very, very excited about it. And then the church down the street took it upon themselves to start cleaning up their property. We saw developers that hadn't had interest start having interest. So it was like, we can be catalysts. We can spur other things by us starting. And again, the excuse, we told ourselves, we're taking excuses away. I don't care what anybody tells us, we're going to do it. Because you can excuse a way not to. You can say, oh, they got a lot of crime in that area. No, we're not going to build that area. Whoever we picked, they're not necessarily going to be able to maintain it. All those excuses we decided to put to the side. Why let the excuses stop us from doing something that we knew was going to be good for somebody? Now, what might happen afterwards, we don't control. But we were able to, in both cases, even in Nashville, the things that are happening because of filling in those holes, filling in the hole we filled in, might not have happened, at least at the same pace, had we not chosen to do that. So part of the legacy is maybe we're going to build on a property that somebody else would not from an investment standpoint because they can't sell it. They can build it and whatever it costs, and then they try to sell it, they can't sell it in that market because it doesn't appraise at the same amount of what it costs to build. And all of us know that real estate is normally sold by comps. Okay, in this area, we see houses selling for this amount. But you build, it costs more to build than that amount. So it costs more to build than the comps will allow you. So our legacy approach is, let's get it down. So our future, we're going to take more of the Nashville model going forward. Because we can attract more families by recycling the legacy houses to members and doing what they're doing, and that is for savings accounts, where the people who live in these then will be able to put money down against even a larger home if they choose to, that maybe they wouldn't be able to do without us doing the legacy house. Other questions?
Hey there, Sarah at DHCD. This is really such interesting information, and I kind of wanted to kick it back to when you mentioned kind of at the head of your presentation about diversity, equity, and inclusion being core principles in your company's design, which I totally love. That's amazing. I was wondering if these same elements were incorporated when you were sourcing building materials and companies when you were actually putting the houses together. Do you have kind of like a diverse, equitable, inclusive slate of partner companies? I guess is what I'm asking.
And just so happened, even though that wasn't our intent of that, our intent was, if we can get some help from other people instead of us having to pay for everything, that's whoever comes, we're happy with. It just so happened that we had a great diversity of companies. We had a higher level of minority companies, and here's a problem that we saw, and this has happened nationwide. As you know, a lot of small construction companies, whether they're minority, female, or what have you, the profit margin is not such that they can donate a whole lot of stuff. I mean, they're just trying to meet payroll every week and get people busy. So if you're asking them to donate, that's a stretch. The bigger companies, yes, they have resources and things to do that, but the smaller companies not. So how do we address that? Well, we decided on the two houses I was talking about for the church. It's called the New Salem Legacy Houses, two of them. One is for battered women that the church sponsors. And we decided that we're not going to ask the contractors to donate to the extent that they're losing because they had to do this project and they couldn't, they couldn't do something else because they were working on this. So we said, let's pay them their cost of doing the work as part of the cash we raise. so that they can donate the profit. They just don't make profit on that, they would make somewhere. But the material, the labor, the payroll they have to meet, we cover that. So going forward, we have cash that we raise through us and other partners that we say, okay, we're going to pay you to put the concrete in, do all the sidewalks. Because you go to the plant, it costs to bring, the trucks out, all that, we're going to cover that. So you're not going to lose, but you're going to participate in a community benefit. It's just that we don't expect you to make profit on it. We do expect that we will pay you for your cost of doing business. And that's the iteration of the legacy house that is moving as we move forward. Now, we're doing one in Chicago and Atlanta coming up with Housing Authority in Atlanta. And they're providing the land at no cost. But as we provide the upfront, we do all the design work, we do all those kind of things for free. We wanted to get out just doing pro bono services. That is, a lot of architects say, well, we'll do something, concepts and all that, for no charge. We just didn't feel that went far enough. We thought, okay, sure we can do that, but when we total the cost of building a project, whatever that is, the total cost versus just construction, there's soft costs, as we know. We look to get the soft costs, some attorney fees for rezoning and things of that nature donated, because we did feel that we could find enough attorneys that would be willing to do that, and we have. Other questions?
I'm a staff person, but I do have a question. I'm happy to pass the mic on to the crowd. Sorry to take the question. I wondered if you could share whether the Nashville model helps the homeowners build a healthy credit profile, so they have a savings account, but when they pay monthly, do you know if that helps them build enough credit to get into that bigger home that you described?
It does. As most of us find out, and there's a story I'm going to tell you about credit that's kind of strange, but it's a fact. We all hear TV commercials, and you can go online and increase your credit score by going on your phone and using this app and all that kind of stuff. Now, it's not that simple for people that are making the minimum wage and have 5 kids. So one of the things that we found, again, in our case, you don't need a credit score. It doesn't make any difference. You get the house. If you select it, you get the house. So what that does is, again, in addition to the 4 savings, it creates kind of something that you should be doing anyway. I don't care where you live, you're going to pay rent or something, unless you live with a family member that's allowing you to be there free. But in our living, you have to pay rent. All we're doing is saying, you would normally, by paying rent on time, you would increase your credit score. You got other bills you need to handle too, but that's been the problem, is the rents have been so high that they don't have excess fund to cover all the other costs that they should, and they get behind somewhere. Well, we've got some building reprieves given that, and some counseling that goes with that, with the agencies that do that. What I wanted to say about this quick story about loaning, though, we decided to help a lady who just happened was a cancer victim, had a number of kids that she was taking care of. She worked at a child care center and get a minimum wage, and we could find a way to help her get a house, not a brand new house, to buy a house in the neighborhood. So we determined we were going to give her the down payment that was required, conventional loan. She get a credit score up, which she worked on, she got it up, and we're going to give her the 20% in this case. She couldn't get VA or something, all those things. She found a special program, but it required cash she didn't have. under current financial laws, we were not allowed to give her those funds. If it did not come from a relative, the requirements from the financial institution is you cannot give somebody a down payment if you're not a relative. We didn't know that. But that was the fact. So it was like, well, how can we help this person if we're not allowed to give it to her? So around what we had to do is end up discounting the house. What we did, we bought the house. And then we sold it to her at a discounted level for what we were going to give her in the first place. But that was the kind of thing that we found out that we didn't know that is currently under a lot of laws of financial institutions is your down payment has to come from some source other than, I mean, it can't be a corporation gifting it to you or somebody, it can't be somebody gives you the money. So that's just something that needs to be worked on that I think is just part of our fabric right now. Yes?
Yes, this is really intriguing, and congratulations to you and your company for all that you're accomplishing. So you alluded to a little bit of NIMBYism in terms of the any pushback on the kind of modern architectural designs. But can you talk to us about how you all have been able to overcome that NIMBYism, whether on a small scale or larger scale, kind of community-wide?
One of the things that is a challenge to us, and I think you heard it a little bit earlier, we built one. Cost a fortune to build one. We didn't have a number. If we could build, like you heard earlier, 20, the break-in cost to build a number is a whole lot better than if we build one. And that's something that we have to work on. And what our thinking is if we have others interested in doing what we're doing, then let's team together and let's build multiple numbers of it. Now we can do, 50 unit, housing unit, things of that nature. With developers, we've got a number of things we designed that way. But those are buildings that happen to house units. We're saying that that's all, that's a market that needs to be maintained. But the single family house is a whole different world. We need to go into and buy multiple lots. We need to work with a select group of contractors that can give us a price. If they do 5, they give us a break. They do 10, we need to up the number. But we don't have the resources to do that ourselves without us tanking the business. I mean, we can only do so much, so we need to partner. And when it comes to not my backyard, that is just part of it. It's just something, but we happen to work in a lot of communities, so we know that when we go to certain meetings, there's going to be things that we need to address that are concerns, and rightfully so, of those community members that we need to be addressed. Because the first thing most people are concerned about, my house just appraised at $250,000, and now you're going to come in, and that person is maybe going to have a house at half my cost. Well, we're not doing that. The house, matter of fact, the house we showed, the legacy house, it cost more than every house on that street. So it wasn't that it came in below, it's on top. There are communities in which we will be at the same range of those. So their neighbor who says, I don't want to lose my property value, doesn't. Now the part of not wanting someone who is, in a lot of people's mind, not in the stature they are, that's a whole different world. And we're architects, we're letting community members, we're letting other people deal with that. It's like, we say to Southeast Area Mission, remember we're architects, we don't know how to address those kind of things, and we want you to address those things. And we're just going to design and build a house. So that's kind of the approach we've taken on that.
Obviously the square footage of the house and the small lot size were key ways to reduce costs. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about choices you made on materials and trade-offs between cost and maintenance, and also a little bit about your choices on heating and cooling.
Again, early on we decided on a material palette, which you saw. In this case, we went with dark trim purposely because we wanted a more sleek look than what had been done in that neighborhood and others. We went with basically hardy board as far as the siding, predetermined. We could have done with other cheaper material, quite frankly, but we weren't looking to do it with the cheapest material. We were looking to do it for, again, what any neighborhood and a young professional would like. So that was the criteria, not can we do it for the cheapest, use the cheapest material. Now going forward, we're looking more at that. How can we use some of the more inexpensive materials more often and things of that nature, so we can reduce the total upfront cost. But when it came to roofing, for instance, we just so happened to design the headquarters of a major roofing company, and they donated the roofing. We specified so many windows on other projects that the window supplier donated the windows. The flooring was all donated. And so we had a number of materials donated. The labor to put it down wasn't, but the cost of some materials were. When it came to the heating system, again, we went with a simple system, through-wall system that we used for that size house, take care of the whole house, easy maintenance, easy. So we didn't have a furnace sitting in a furnace room, which helped because we needed space. We didn't want to take up more space on the floor, that kind of thing. So we didn't have to. Now, in our future legacy houses, again, you saw bedroom furniture. That's really what we did because the staff did, as I mentioned. The future ones, though, we have Murphy beds. And the reason, not for the main master bedroom, but for the kids. And the main reason is because the rooms are, we call them bunk rooms, not just bedroom, bunk rooms. So that when the beds are folded up, the back of the bed is actually a counter for them to do their homework and different things of that nature. So the multiple use of those spaces became essential, not just for sleeping. What things can be done that those spaces are used more so than get up in the morning, go back at night. We wanted multi-purpose rooms for those rooms, and we've amended our designs to incorporate that. So that's part of the process.
As a follow-up,
yes.
When we're looking at the footprint, the 700 square foot, can you talk a little bit about the energy footprint for those structures? Because we know that the ongoing cost is, part of that is being able to maintain your energy expense from month to month.
It is, but something that is not in the market to the degree that I think it's going to be in the future. Most of us are aware that depending upon where you live, that there are solar companies offering solar panels to be applied to existing homes, and there's in some cases an offset, a grant or something that breaks it down, and you can finance it over a certain period of time and all that. Well, what we've been doing in designing some buildings of net zero, we believe that we can design some of those same techniques into net zero houses. So the goal is to do that And some of those techniques, not just solar on the roof, we're looking at packaging that more in the smaller homes. As I mentioned, we're doing it in all sizes now, as far as the designs we have. But what we haven't gotten done yet is we want that system as a package system, not just the mechanical contractor comes out and installs the furnace and runs the ductwork and all that kind of stuff. We want to go away from that. We want to have that part of the prefab, as I mentioned, on the kitchen, bathroom, and the bath and half and laundry. What we want is we want the ductwork and the ceiling of that in the unit that then just gets circulated through the rest of the house. And we want it to be as energy efficient as we can. We know our hot water and how we're doing that with some of our kitchen counters. But again, the goal is these packages. I mentioned Sears earlier in this thing. What if you can go online and get ready to build your house and you order your kitchen, your bathroom, all that in this module package that then is delivered to your site. It's something of that nature. At least we're thinking about that space that I was talking about is 12 by 14. We want to tighten it up a little bit more. We're going to do it in about 150 square foot maximum, and all of those things. And again, our goal is to just, except we've already designed it, but we haven't worked the deal out with I mentioned the trade schools. Our goal is to have the first come to market, the trade schools, build them in their shop, and then deliver to the site as something that then gets manufactured by whatever modular housing company picks it up. Any other questions? Well, again, thank you for having me.
All right, please join us in the reception immediately out in the rotunda. And maybe we can ask Curtis what it would take to have a Moody Nolan office here in Virginia. I don't know that they have one.
The